please help me welcome with a lot of love my personal crush every single day. They say Wednesday, women crush on Wednesday, but I always say she's my personal crush every single day. The one and only Mrs. Ibukun Awosika. Yeah, please can I get some emojis? Drum roll, drum roll, drum
Thank you,
roll.
thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank
Okay,
you, everyone.
normally, thank you, thank you. Yeah, so do
Thank
you
you,
want to share
everyone.
some opening remarks before we start? Yeah.
Well, I'm just glad we finally worked it out. So, because I was going crazy thinking I've done this a few times. So I thought that I had the hang of it, but I don't know. It had its own life. So I'm glad to be here. We girls, we don't give up.
We don't
So
give up. Yeah, I was deciding that we're going to have this thing.
we don't give
But
up.
I
So we have to find a solution to
I'm
this. So
super, super excited. So tonight we're talking about strategic leadership for executive women. I did say you are a leader of leaders, so I believe you are more than qualified to speak to this topic. And we're talking about balancing ambition and authenticity. And I think off the bat, the question I want to ask you is there any such thing as being over ambitious? And I ask that question because many times when men are pursuing their career goals, people say, oh, this person is very driven. But I think for a woman, it's always like the standard is different. They will say, we are just over ambitious. Why do we want to do this? Why do we want to do that? So, in your own opinion, is there any such thing as being overly ambitious?
I don't know what that means because, in reality,
Yes.
everybody's level of ambition is relative.
Yes.
So you cannot say that someone is over ambitious as compared to what. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't know the person, you do not have a sense of the calling or the gifts of God in that person. You don't know the dreams and the desire in the heart of that person. So it's relative for each person. It's very different.
Mm-hmm.
What someone is satisfied with is only the beginning for another. And you see,
Mm-hmm.
it's really like for those who are Christians, it's about the parable of talents. One was given five, another was given two, one was given one. And
Mm-hmm.
when the five returned 10, he got 100% performance. When the two returned four, he got 100% performance.
Absolutely.
So it's not so much about, how you measure. It's about how do
Mm-hmm.
you measure relative to the call of each person. So, personally, sometimes when people say, you're going to kill yourself, aren't you tired? I just laugh because you know what? It's relative to what I feel I have been called to. It's relative
Absolutely.
to the gift I have been given. So you cannot be, if you exceed your capacity, you will know. And don't
Exactly.
forget that the things that we're even called to do, we never ever have everything we need for it.
True,
Yes,
true, true.
because I think part of what we must realize, otherwise you'll be an island if you have everything you need. What will teach you to value others and to collaborate with others and to build networks and build relationships and respect the gifts of others is because what you have is complemented by the gifts around you. And
Absolutely.
and therefore the extent to which you can deliver is multiplied by your ability to use the resources that have been placed in your environment. So if you use your ecosystem well, you find that you do three, four times more than others. If you learn how to delegate, if you learn how to collaborate, if you learn how to be empowered by others, but if you learn to use the hands of others to extend your hands, you will
Yes.
do so much more. So it's not, you know how
And
you get,
yeah.
sorry, you know how
No, no,
we
it's so
get
fine. No, you
into
can continue.
people saying
Yes.
you are over ambitious. We talk too much. That's the problem. We talk too
Wow.
much. When you go and carry your vision and tell people that have no capacity to even help you to incubate it, then to them it looks like you're doing too much.
And they will kill that vision before you even start.
And you can't blame them because, first and foremost, they don't have capacity for what you are loading them with. And therefore, what they see is you doing too much.
Yeah.
But if you are in the right environment, let me tell a story. So, one of the 360 classes, one of my mentees in the class, she comes from the bottom of the pyramid, but she has risen to a high level in her industry. She's done amazing things. And I remember when we were having that particular class, she was crying and crying in the class. So at a point, I asked her, "Why are you crying?" She said to me, "It's the first time I have been free to share my dreams, my
Oh,
thoughts,
wow.
and my ambition." And then she now told us the story of where she was coming from and how far she has come. And that her friends from that they grew up together, whenever she's talking about the things she still wants to do, they'll say to her, "Ah, you want too much. What's wrong with you? With everything that you already have enough. Forget that one." You can't blame them. To them, she's already a hero. She's a
Oh,
superstar.
wow.
She has done so much more than they can ever dream of doing.
Yeah.
And therefore, for her to want anything more, to them didn't make any sense. So it's about who is measuring, and it's about what are they measuring it against. So it's your responsibility to guard your vision, to make sure you create the right and enabling environment for it, to create a supportive environment for it, which is why, at the conference in the first year, we spent a lot of time on building tribes. It's about
Yeah.
building the right tribe for the
Tribe.
vision that you
Yes.
have. And that tribe can change from time to time. As you
Okay.
move to certain levels, you might find that the environment that was sufficient for yesterday
It's not
is not enough
sufficient.
for today. And you
Okay.
need to create the right mix to help you move forward.
Okay. And I totally agree. But that your answer brings me to my next question. So, because we're talking about trying to balance ambition and authenticity, I'm going to get to authenticity. But I just wanted to ask, in trying to achieve your ambition, where do you find the balance, for instance, for the other things that you also have to be able to give attention to? For instance, you are a wife, you're a mother, you have so many other things that you channel your energy towards. So I hear you. So, of course, I have things I want to do, but I also have to be aware that I have other responsibilities that I am, that I need to be able to channel my energy to. So, where do you strike that balance where you are trying to fulfill your ambitions, but at the same time, you are not neglecting your other responsibilities, whether it's been a wife, whether it's been a mother, whether it's been a pastor, or any other area of your life that really demands your attention at any point in time?
Okay. So once you've determined what is important to you, and one thing we must understand, what is important to each one of us at different seasons is different.
Absolutely.
So there are different seasons and stages in our lives, and we must know how to be current for the season. Okay. So, like, when I'll take myself. I started business just before my 26th birthday. So I started having children. I got married on my 28th birthday. My first son was born before I was 29. My second child was born at 31. And of course, it took another 7 years or so to have my third child. Now, I was already in business. I couldn't shut down a manufacturing system in order to be a mother to my children, and they had to find space for one another. And I had to find space for being a wife and being a mother. Now, that's the season where your balls are trying to breathe. The balls are trying to find their space. These are better times because there are a lot more resources structurally available for us to use. Now, one of the things that we must know is if you're a girl that is ambitious, that wants to get to the highest place, you must also be diligent to set up systems around you that work to support where you want to go to.
Absolutely.
So, I'm a mother, reality of life. I'm an entrepreneur building my business, my reality. I am the wife of my husband, fact. 3 non-negotiable facts in my life. How can I get up with, let me think, when my baby was, my last born, when he was 6 months old, I left for business school. How could I do that? First, I had to sell my vision to my stakeholders. So I told my husband about going to business school, and we had agreed before I found out I was pregnant. Once he found out that I was pregnant, he said to me, "You can't." I didn't argue. Reality based on fact. So I waited. 9 months project, baby born. Once the baby was born, I said, "Okay, now can I go?" I'm sure he thought, with the baby, how are you going to cope? He said yes. So it was now my problem to work out salvation. So I had sold my vision to my husband. I had to work out the salvation of how to make things work. Now, in advance of that moment, raising my first 2, and my niece, who was my ward, so I was already raising 3 children before I had my last child. I had set up a system in my house that allowed me to have support. I always had the house helps, and then I had cousins that lived with me. And then when I came home with my second child, at the first day or second day I came back from America, I asked my mother-in-law if she would come and stay with us. And for 20 years, I didn't let her go. She only left my house to go to heaven. No,
That
I'm
was a
serious.
tactical decision.
Yes. And it benefited me greatly because, one, if any house help got up in the morning to say, "I'm going today," and there's nobody, I had my cousins. So I had structures in layers. And then, considering I used to have to travel, I still travel a lot. My mother-in-law was a matured adult who loves my children as much as I do, who was permanent in my house.
Yes.
So there was a supervisory motherly figure that was there to help keep the peace of the house. Now, let me use my youngest as an example. By the time he came, my life was really busy. He went to boarding school at 10 because one day I came out of a board meeting and my son had called me 50 something times.
Wow.
Yes, because obviously he leaves his phone in the car. Once the driver picks him up in the afternoon, he just picks the phone and starts dialing the number. So I'm like, why? Was there fire on the mountain? There was nothing. He just felt
wanted to talk to
he wanted to talk to his mommy. So at that point, I realized, you know what, this boy is growing like an only child because his brothers were way older than him and they were already away at school in England. So we had our conversation. Do you want to stay? Do you want to go to boarding school and all of that? And he wanted to go. So sometimes you're going to make a hard call. So it was a hard call.
Question.
Yes, it's a hard call for both because some of our challenges are emotional.
Mom guilt.
Yes.
That's where my question is going to. How do you deal with mom guilt?
You just don't see. You have to be intentional. One, you have to be true to yourself. The authenticity you're talking about only means being true to yourself. If you're trying to impress everybody's game, you can't pursue that vision and ambition you're talking about. Because everybody doesn't necessarily understand your vision. Your own stakeholders might, but the general public owe you nothing. And you owe them nothing. Don't ever forget that. Because when you're on top of your game and you succeed at it, they will come back to bow at your feet. and there will be no question about
Word.
that.
Yeah.
But you must have the heart to make the hard calls when you need to. I'll give you an example. When that my youngest was in nursery school, look, at that stage, I'd raised two kids who were already at they were at school in England already. They were big boys now. My youngest, it wasn't even three, it was the youngest. He and Adesu Oyeneko's daughter were the youngest in the entire year at Corona then. He was going to nursery school, and the teacher, my husband went to school one day, and the teacher said, we don't even see Olamipesi's mom here. And my husband came home and said, they're going to give you a bad name in that school. I said, why? He told me what happened. I promptly went to school the next day, went to meet the headmistress and said to her, teach your teachers to mind their
Their
business.
business. I love that.
Because it is not her business how my home works. Why did I say that? That teacher is not in my house in the morning. She doesn't know that in the morning, my son does not allow his nanny to get him ready for school. I wake up and get him ready for school. Take him down, pray with him, give him breakfast, and then see him off to the car. And my son's rules, be waving until the car disappears. In the afternoon, I have nothing to do with him. Why? My factories were in two locations in the town, and my showroom was in another, was on the island, another location. I could be anywhere in the town, whether in the factories or at a meeting with a customer. You can't plan the pickup of a child in the afternoon with me. Otherwise, I'm going to be totally messed up, and that child will be messed up because he will get left at school many times. Not because I'm an irresponsible parent, but because the logistics of it doesn't work for my life. So what my husband and I agreed is, I sort him out in the morning. My driver takes him to school. But in the afternoon, his father, who is more stable, who sits more in his office, and his driver can go and pick him, or who might go to a meeting and on his way from a meeting will go and pick him, is the one that sorts him out in the afternoon. And that is how it works for me. So, but to the outsider, I wasn't visible. I only but I show up on all prize giving days and all the things that are essential. Do I report to his teacher? No. Do I owe her an explanation? No, I don't. I owe my child the responsibility to be a parent to him. And then, because I travel a lot, my son and I developed something we call Mother and Son Day. We'll have a day, it's usually a Saturday. If I've traveled, my son will be, we haven't had a mother and son. You have to be innovative. So on that day, we will do whatever he wants. I'm the wallet and I'm his shoe carrier. I follow him to everywhere and anything from morning till night. And he loved it. He was excited about those things and all of that. So answer your questions for yourself. Set up your own agenda that works for where you want to go and for the things that are important to you. I would miss a party or a social function just so I can show up for my son at school. I mean, I have 3 kids in school in England for about 15 years. I can say without a doubt, as mad as my life was, I never missed a parents' meeting or half term or exits when the younger one went and you have to do exit. Yes, it was
I
tough,
remember
time back and forth.
you shared a story once about how you traveled in the morning with Virgin and you came back in the evening with the British Airways just to be able to be there at a time that is important. And I know that you talk a lot in our 360 program about building up equity, which is to say that the times, I call it quality time, and I remember when I first used to do a lot of travel too, what I would do is that when I get home, I would take my sons, each one of them individually, take them out. They get to decide what they want to do. So that was something to look forward to because, I said to someone the other day, it's really not very fair, that the decisions we struggle with and we have a hard time making, men then don't find themselves in that kind of a predicament. And I think it's a bit unfair. I mean, some people might say no, but I think it's a bit unfair that we, have to be judged that hardly when, men are not judged, as hardly. But okay, let's
You
talk
know,
about
Bola,
this.
you can't
Yeah.
change the society of the time
Yes.
and season that you live.
True.
So now,
True.
why is this important?
Mm,
If you go down the rabbit hole
mm,
of is fair or is not fair, that's not a question you will ever be able to answer. You will just be
true.
frustrated feeling like that. What
Mm,
I always say is look at the context of your time, your season, and your goals. And
mm,
your
mm,
responsibility is to work your success within the context that is available to you. So at this
mm,
point in time,
mm.
men seem to have it easier. Yes,
Yeah.
but how do I make that situation work for me? Every girl needs to work out her husband, work out
True.
their alliance, work out their togetherness, work out how
Build
you plan.
equity. Plenty of
Yes,
equity.
I know. But you build the equity with a goal.
Yeah.
So you're strategic about the equity you build with
Mm,
your spouse or your support system. You see, when
mm,
I say equity with your spouse, it includes your in laws and your
mm.
husband's influencers. His
True.
influencers can be his family, they can be his friends. You work
Mm,
out the logistics of how you manage that scenario to work for you for
mm.
where you want to go. Which is why sometimes some people look at you and they think you're stupid. What do you care? As long as you know what you are doing and you're getting, it's true. You see some women, they will fawn over their husbands, pamper him. They know what they're doing.
Absolutely.